Hello, my dear friend. Do you want to unlock this exclusive title all for yourself? Or do you perhaps just want to impress your friends? Or are you just really enjoying Doombots? Well, if the answer to any of those is yes, then oh boy, you're in luck. Because I have prepared a guide for this surprisingly fun game mode for yours truly to enjoy. Within this guide, I have compressed all the useful information I have learned about Doombots thus far. Also, while I'm at it, most footage will be signed because that's the champion I played throughout my journey. I will explain why I did so in a later timestamp, if the future me has the motivation to edit that, of course. But before we get into it, let's discuss the sponsor of today's Oh wait, no, I don't have any of that yet. It's my first video. Oops. On that note, my voice kind of starts off as stiff since it's my, first time recording, but I will get used to it within the video, so I hope you don't mind that too much. That being said, it is now time to jump right into... Okay, so before even starting with any of the strats, the first thing we are going to want to discuss are champions, because without a good champion, you are not getting anywhere in this mode. The general team comp you want to be aiming for should consist of around 3 to 4 tanks and bruisers, while the rest should be champions that can actually deal lots of damage. Tanks or bruisers that I consider to be very good and beginner friendly are Cyan, Mordekaiser, because he can steal stats, Williber, Darius, and Set. On the other side of the spectrum, we got those champs that are here to actually deal the damage, like ADCs and mages. Very good options to consider are Brand, Jinx, Vayne, Kog'Maw, and Heimerdinger, whose turrets can actually really come in clutch in the Veigar Bossfight at the end. There are also some other notable choices like Viego, Silas, and Mel, as they can all turn the enemy's strength against themselves in one way or another. The problem is that they are all really squishy and sometimes don't deal as much DPS as you'd like them to. But of these three, I would consider Mel to be the most viable option if you really want to play her. As for the summoners, I would simply recommend taking Flash and Teleport. There are some people who like Ignite and Ghost, but I feel like Teleport is just too valuable if you want to contest those events later in the game. Okay, now that we got all the boring stuff out of the way, let's jump right into... While the early game may be the easiest part of the game, there still are two main objectives you want to achieve this early on, those two being contesting the first mission and farming enemy kills without dying. The first piece of advice I want to share with you is placing a control ward in both the Baron and Dragon Pit respectively. Those control wards will be insanely useful throughout the entire game. They will stand there for the entire game, and not only will they allow your entire team to teleport to them for events such as the target dummy duel, but also enable some advanced wave management strats I will be diving into later. Speaking of missions, it is important your entire team comes together to contest a mission at the 4-minute mark. While this may result in the loss of a few towers, the rewards are absolutely worth it, as your team gets 5000 gold in total, a permanent rank soul, and probably some kills along the way too. A loss on the other side would result in a permanent punishment that may or may not be game losing. Under no circumstances should you ever ignore the first event. Now, before moving on to the mid game, there is one final piece of advice I want to give you, and it involves killing those freaky bots before laning phase even starts. The strat involves one of the players to get close to the enemy tower. Doing so will provoke the Doom bot, making him brainlessly follow you. It is important that you only pull one bot at a time, just like I'm showing in the background. All you have to do now is to bait him deep enough into the lane, where you and your mate can finish the bot off together. It is important to note that this strategy generally only works for the top and bot lane, as it heavily relies on outnumbering the enemy. Now is a great time to go back and use your teleport if you are low on resources after this early cheese, as your teleport has a 2.5 minute cooldown and will be perfectly up for the mission at the 4-minute mark. How to play the lane itself heavily depends on the champion you're playing, meaning I can't go very in depth on those parts. I will however mention that it is normally a good idea to protect the towers instead of going back for a reset sometimes, as some bots with Demolish are very quick to tear down your turret. That being said, it is now time to move on to... Okay, now that you successfully completed the first mission, I'm happy to report you have officially graduated from the early game. Which, yeah, was the easiest part. Yep, it only goes down from here, so buckle up everyone. That being said, there actually aren't a whole lot of useful cheeses or threats for this part of the game, unfortunately. So instead, I will go over the general objectives you want to follow, with the first and most important one being protecting your towers. Holding off the bots and preventing them from cracking open your base will give you and your team some much needed breathing room for the late game and second mission. Trust me, you will need it. Defending your towers can sometimes get pretty tough, especially when you have to defend against 2 or 3 of them at the same time, which is why your second objective should be to outnumber your enemies. At this stage, you are not really attached to your original lane anymore. While it is sometimes possible to defeat some weaker bots in a 1v1 scenario, it is a good idea to play as a team and score some kills on the enemies together as well. And lastly, whether or not you should contest the second mission at the 9-minute mark greatly depends on which mission RNGesus grants you. Instead of discussing them now, I will go over all the missions in an extra dedicated timestamp later. For now, I will only mention that you should try to keep your teleport up for the 9th minute, in case you actually want to contest the mission. Okay, I'll be honest, that was really tough, but you somehow made it through by keeping your base somewhat intact on top of winning the second mission. Now's your chance to take a breather and wait for the timer to run out. Wait, what's that? Wait, no, stop! Oh no 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 no! Yep, you heard it right, this is the hardest part of the run. 1v1s will almost be impossible at this point of the game, there are mega minions all over the base and the bots will keep teleporting into your base with what feels like a 0-second cooldown. At this point of the game, your main objective should be, I don't know, maybe fucking surviving? Because trust me, you'll have your hands full with that alone. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit here, but no joke, there will be a lot of games that look exactly like this if you didn't do your job properly up to now, or you just got unlucky. But worry not, my fellow summoner, I still have 1 or 2 tips to offer you for this hellish nightmare that just might help you survive a bit longer in this chaos. And it involves proxy farming the waves behind enemy lines. This strategy works especially well if your base is still holding up somewhat fine and only like 1 inhibitor has been cracked open. Proxying here can be beneficial in multiple ways, the first one being to prevent waves on that lane from ever reaching your base. This is excellent for stalling out your div. Secondly, doing this will for some reason really make the bots unhappy, making you grab their attention. This way you might be able to pull away multiple bots from your base, which allows your team to outnumber the enemies and defend the other lanes too. You even might be able to bait some of those teleports out. And if you don't know how to get behind the enemies, you can always just teleport to those control wards you placed earlier. But once an enemy reaches you, it is important you keep in mind that killing him is only secondary. Farming waves and stalling out the enemies should still be your primary objective here. Like seriously, do you see how long I'm stalling those enemies? This clip is like 1.5 minutes long and I'm just running around non-stop by clearing waves. I feel like Cyan specifically really excels at this task, so while I got the time I will shortly explain why Cyan is the GOAT at this. The first reason is his ult. He can easily slip past the enemies to quickly reach the lane. The second reason is his passive. Even after death he might be able to clear just 1 more wave or even squeeze out 1 last kill. The final reason is his wave clear. While he may not be super fast, it is definitely more than enough with Titanic Hydra. Well, all being said and done, if your base already looks like this when the timer is still at only like 4 minutes, you're mega cooked and not even Faker could save your ass at this point. But if you did everything just fine and maybe with that of some little extra luck, you just might be able to reach. Okay, so first of all, let me congratulate you. Only a small handful of games make it this far and this part is certainly easier than the hell you just lived through. But don't get cocky, because this thing is certainly not in the bag just yet. First and foremost, there's one thing you are gonna want to worry about. In between the Veigar Bossfight and the timer running out, there might occur an event where Veigar summons all his minions to siege your base. I believe it happens when you still have inhibitors standing when the timer runs out. I say I believe, because it's borderline impossible to find any reliable information on this game mode. Anyway, if this happens, first of all you have my con lessons, but also you should try to stay as a team to kill the bots one by one. But no, honestly, this part can really fuck you over sometimes. Especially when you don't have many inhibs and towers left, it can be really frustrating to see all your efforts going to waste just cause some stupidly Simbot is smurfing on you. No, like seriously, what were they thinking with Lee Simba? Like come on, look at this, it's ridiculous. Okay, now that you survived whatever that was, it's time for the Veigar Bossfight. Who's actually pretty chill, comparatively. Oh, but don't get us twisted, he's not a free kill by any means. I myself have lost against this guy more often than not, so trust me. That being said, here's a quick rundown of some useful things to know during this fight. Most importantly, keep hitting Veigar. If Veigar is not damaged within a certain amount of time, and he's not currently doing some other attack, he will start shooting your Nexus, eventually pulverizing it. This one may go hand in hand with the first one, but don't die. If this wasn't already obvious, when your entire team is wiped out, no one can damage you, dude, meaning you are omega fucked. Thirdly, remember to use your summoner spells. The summoner cooldowns are much shorter than usual. Like seriously, look at this, Flash only has like a 20-second cooldown. So feel free to dodge attacks with your Flash whenever you feel like it. Oh, I should probably also mention that any inhibitors you carry over from the late game to the boss fight sort of work as extra breathing room, as Veigar will destroy those before actually wrecking your Nexus. Yep. Okay, that was all general advice that should be kept in mind throughout the entire boss. But now I will go over some of the attacks to watch out for in Ultra Rapid Fire Edition, or URF for short. A common one to watch out for is this little shockwave attack. If he hits you, you get knocked back and stunned, meaning you can't damage him and he can get in some free shots at the Nexus. Flash and Sign ult are great as counter. Sometimes he does his memory attack thingy. Here, you have to remember which symbols he marks red and then avoid stepping on them later. It's a lot like that cup shuffling game, if you really think about it. In another attack, he summons those pumpkins. Instead of just hitting them like some kind of idiot, you can instead guide one of those projectiles he yoinks at you on top of the pumpkin. Doing so does massive damage and removes more than half HP. He also sometimes does his mind control technique where he clones himself. However, only the real Veigar will keep status effects such as burns or the proper Veigar passive stacks, so you can easily identify the real one by checking that. And lastly, he sometimes randomly traps a player within a Mordekaiser ult and makes them 1v1 one of his bots. The objective is not to kill the enemy here, it is only to survive for a set amount of time. Also, he sometimes does a thing where you're like the last player and then he Mordekaiser ults you and then he just insta-kills your Nexus. Which, yeah, thanks Riot. But yeah, that's about it. That's everything I have to say for the Veigar fight. So all that's left now is... Okay, so there's actually still a ton of stuff I felt like should be mentioned somewhere in the video, but didn't really have any space within any of the other segments. So here's a quick rundown, starting with the missions. In total, there are 10 different missions, each divided into two groups. Those that play at the 9-minute mark and those who play at the 4-minute mark. There is actually not a whole lot to discuss for the latter one, as they're all pretty simple and can be completed without much of a problem. So here is a quick rundown of each mission that plays at the 4th minute. Okay, so you've got Target Dummy Duel, Find Fiddlesticks, Tower Charge Down, Doombot Power Up, and Singed Goblin, who's actually the most annoying one, as bad pathing RNG can sometimes lead to a loss. Also, I'm gonna quickly mention that you should sometimes consider sending one player to the bot side dummy and target dummy duel in order to distract the bots. Okay, that's it though. I'm gonna continue with the tougher missions now. So these guns actually vary a lot in difficulty, so we're gonna start with the easiest and slowly work our way up to the most game losing ones. Okay? The easiest out of these is definitely the Ghoul's Rise. Like, there aren't that many gravestones spread throughout the map, and they're pretty easy to kill once you reach one. It only takes like 3 hits to destroy one. 2 or 3 people should be enough to complete this themselves, while the rest defend space. Second in line is Super Evil Portal Assault. This one is pretty tough to win, but you can do it if like 3 or 4 people dedicate themselves to this mission. The problem is that you pretty much leave your base open by doing that. But you should definitely contest it though. Okay, so the next one is King of the Hill, and I gotta admit I have actually never won this one. At least not on the hardest difficulty. I feel like there's always this pattern where you and your team first are doing great, you know, killing the enemies and conquering the zone, but eventually they respawn and then they just win the battle of attrition in the long run. So while this one is very hard to win, it at least stalls the enemies in the middle of mid lane, meaning they won't actually damage your base, unlike some other events. Next up is Defeat Karthus. Not only is this mission pretty hard to win because you have to be at both the Baron and Dragon Pit, but Karthus also proceeds to destroy your base at the same time. I think out of all my attempts I've only succeeded in taking down Karthus like one time, maybe? It should be noted, however, that he at least can't destroy Inhibs or your Nexus. I myself would recommend dedicating your entire team for this one, because if he gets too many ults in, it's over. So yeah, good luck. And last, but certainly not least, we have Mega Ziggs. So first of all, I hate to break it to you, but it's probably Ogre. So in this event, there will be this funny guy named Ziggs running down one of your lanes. The great thing is, he has like 10k plus HP and has multiple Doombots peeling him. He will then proceed to nuke all your towers within said lane. At the end, he will emote your base to the ground before eventually fucking off. So yeah, love this mission. Feels great when you get rolled by bad RNG. Okay, so on a more serious note, it is not impossible to win this one, although it feels very luck dependent based on the enemy champions. If you want a shot at winning, you and your team should absolutely waste no time to instantly collapse on this clown in order to hopefully take him down before too much damage is done. But yeah, like I said, it feels pretty luck dependent. Also, you might have guessed this already, but placing those control wards I mentioned earlier will come in super handy for those events, as all of them, except for maybe Ziggs, take place outside the base and require you to move around on a map. Okay, so before wrapping up this video for real, there are some other bullet points I want to mention real fast, with the first one being the Doombots. Originally I wanted to make this its own long segment, but I really can't be bothered to edit that anymore, so instead here's a short list of my top 5 most annoying bots. 5th place takes Wukong, 4th place takes Caitlyn, 3rd place takes Jinx, 2nd place takes Lee Sin, and Soraka takes the crown. If you get any of those, it's not directly game over by any means, it just means they will be pretty annoying to deal with. Next up, why Sign is great at this mode. First of all, the Doombots are too stupid to dodge his Q. Secondly, his passive very often allows him to pick up one final kill after dying. Thirdly, his ult is kinda like a secondary teleport. And lastly, his W does max health damage, which helps against the Veigar Bossfight and submissions. The next one may not be very gameplay related, but it definitely helps you win. If you're like me and don't have any friends to play this game mode with, there is no shame in inviting people after a game to your party if you feel like they played well. I don't want to sound rude, but this way you can ensure that your team is filled with skilled players who you trust and finally achieve some damn consistency in this game mode. Oh, also, in case you didn't know, there will be 2 more Doombot difficulties added later. Right now, we have Veigar's Evil, but in the following patches, Veigar's Curse and Veigar's Doom will also release. Completing all 3 unlocks the unique Summoner title. And my last bullet point, as you might have guessed, there's actually a lot of RNG in this game mode. Whether it's the Doombot selection, the different kind of missions, or even the Drang Soul reward, each game will be different and sometimes you will just get rolled by bad RNG. So don't get too frustrated over a loss. All you can do for now is to throw yourself at this game mode and pray that all the stars happen to align in one game, while, of course, enjoying the limited time you have with it. Okay, now that everything is said and done, I'm happy to announce you're now a certified Doombots expert. This however also means that this is the end of the video and I really sincerely thank you for sticking around up till now. However, that has been it for me. See ya!